Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Greeting of peace to all my family and friends and anyone that's currently watching this live stream. I'm going to be very brief in this vlog because I have to go to Jummah for prayers, but I wanted to do this just quick reaction or live broadcast to answer some of the questions that was left during my previous live stream, and I didn't actually see the comments only after I ended the stream, so I couldn't answer the subscriber regarding his questions. Now, from the kind of questions that were left, I'm assuming that that gentleman or that brother, I would like to say, is an atheist. He doesn't believe in God, he doesn't believe in religion, and he was making statements and stuff. But I wanted to address these points as well because I really appreciate his time in writing these questions and making these statements. Whether it's negative or positive, everyone has a right to their own opinion, and we can always agree to disagree. And I respect and I value everyone's opinion. Whether it's negative or positive, I take it all and I would like to address it. So first thing he did mention, I believe, was the solution for peace is to end all religions. Religions are something evil and we should just end it. With all due respect, you have the freedom to choose your own life. God gave you that freedom to choose to accept, to worship God, or to disbelieve. That is your freedom. There's no compulsion in your way of life. There's no compulsion in religion. Now, I've done my research from a very young age, and I looked into all religions. I actually listened to everyone. And there was one point in my life when I was very young, I actually believed that religion was created to control the masses. It was something that was invented by the leaders. So I wasn't really a believer. So I was pretty much in your shoes. Okay. And then I started listening and reading for myself, researching in my teenage years. And I went through every single book. I hung around with people that were of the Jewish faith, people who were the Hindu faith, people that was Buddhist, people that didn't even believe in God, people that were agnostic, that weren't sure. And I listened to every single individual's argument. And I hanged around with priests and many religious leaders just to really to understand from their perspective. But I didn't stop there. I went back to the books and I started reading the books and judging for myself what made sense up here and what fitted in the heart. And that took me back into Islam at a very young age. So after researching, I realized that all the revelations came from the one creator. They're all one line. From the beginning of creation, from the beginning of the creation of Adam, which I believe is our father and the same mother. We all originate from the same father and mother. Therefore, we're all brothers and sisters. We all belong part and parcel to the human race. And therefore, we should respect each other and cooperate and build like cooperate to do benefit in the world. And we're placed on earth as trustees, which makes complete sense to me. And the message that was given from the beginning of creation, from Adam all the way until the Prophet Muhammad was always Islam. Islam simply means peace and total submission to the will of God. So God gave us a blueprint how to be successful in this life. If we abide and follow these rules, we'll be successful, we'll be happy, and we'll be able to fulfill our purpose on earth, as well as we'll be successful in hereafter. Okay, so that he gave us this manual. So it's like when you buy a mobile, you get a manual. It tells you what the do's and don'ts, how to use the mobile, how to get the best out of that device. Now, you might not choose to follow that manual. You might just throw the manual away and say, well, I can figure this out myself. And then you might do something and then your mobile might end up getting damaged, or you might not get the optimal performance out of your device, laptop, mobile, any device. Okay, because you decided to ignore the manual. It's your free choice. That's your free choice. God gave you that choice. So with all due respect, if you decided to not believe in God, that's fine. But don't impose your way of life on others. So if someone believes in a religion or a way of life, or they would like to adopt a certain, way of life. For example, I was asked recently by someone saying, why do you travel a lot? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? Well, if he doesn't want to travel, he doesn't need to travel. But if I need to travel, why does he need to go into my personal life? Why I've traveled somewhere? Why do I travel here? Why do I study? Why did I do multiple degrees? It's my life. I chose to invest my time in education. I chose to invest my time to travel, to explore other cultures. If he doesn't want that for himself, that's fine. It's his life. He can do whatever. He earns his income from his employer and he decides to spend it in a certain way. I decided to spend it in a different way. I decided to use my time to build my own business. He decided to use his time and not build his own business, to have fun with his friends and just work a 9 to 5 job. That's fine. It's your free choice. No one's telling you it's wrong or wrong or right. You live your life the way you want to live it, and leave other people live their life the way they want to live it. Don't impose your way of life on others, and other people should not impose their way of life on you. So all due respect, I mean, that's fine. If you don't believe in God, that's fine. It's your choice. If you are not convinced of your decision, my only recommendation for you is you should continue researching. If you have never read the Quran before, my suggestion for you is to read the Quran and judge for yourself. Now, if you have read the Quran and you've decided, well, this is not for you, absolutely fine. There's no compulsion in religion. I have to say it again and again because some people get that. That's what I say. So don't feel bad because I've accepted Islam. Don't feel bad. There's 2 billion Muslims out there in the world. They're not harming you in any way. No one's interfering with your way of life, so that's fine. And then there was another, I think it's the same individual, he said that Israel existed for over 4,000 years, I believe he said. I don't actually have the exact chapter, I just made some notes from memory. And I think he said something like 4,000 years. Well, actually, that's completely false. That is not true at all. Israel has only existed 75 years. 75 years. It never existed before that. Now, let me explain to you a little bit more. The descendants of Bani Israel. Israel is a name of a prophet. His name is Jacob. Jacob in English, Yaqub in Arabic. Okay? Jacob had 12 sons. One of them was Joseph, Yusuf in Arabic and Joseph in English. So Joseph moved to Egypt when his brothers threw him in a well, and then he was captured and taken to Egypt, and then he settled in Egypt, and he called his whole family. His brothers, and he forgave his brothers for what they did to him, and he brought them all to Egypt, including his father, and so on. So his entire family, so Jacob, who's known as Israel, moved into Egypt, settled in Egypt, and then the descendants of Jacob then thrived. They had their own children, grandchildren, and so on. So the whole route starts. So it all started from where? It started from Egypt, because they moved, the whole family moved into Egypt. Now, who was before Jacob? Well, Jacob descended from Ishaq. Ishaq was a son of Abraham. Abraham had 2 sons, had Ishaq and Ismail. From the descendants of Isaac, Ishaq, came Jacob. Many, not immediately, not his immediate son, but let's just go down the route. But then that's when the family, the name Israel came from. It came from that descendant of Ishaq, who's known as Jacob, also known as Israel. And the descendants of Israel are called the children of Israel, Bani Israel. This is when it started. Now, from the descendants of Ismail came eventually the Arabs. Saleh, there was then later on moved down the chain until it came to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Okay, now from that point onwards, from when they settled in Egypt, this is where it started from. Now, according to my friends, the Zionist friends and Jews and so on, they believe that Egypt is actually the greater Israel. It's actually Egypt because that's where they started from. They started from Egypt because that's where they settled. They settled in Egypt. Who lived in that area? Who lived in that area that's called Israel today, or also known as Palestine? It wasn't called Palestine at the time. It was a land. It had a mixture of races, including the Phoenician. They had Philistine, which sounds a bit like Palestine, and also it had the Canaanites. So these were the natives of the land. Now the Palestinians, they are a mix of these races plus a mix of the children of Israel, from Bani Israel. So if you look at their genetics, they have a mixture of all 4 types of genetics group. All 4 of the genetic groups. So you see them mixed with all these different genetics. They are more stronger from the Canaanites, the Bani Israel, descendants of Bani Israel, descendants of Ishaq, okay, and the Phoenician, which are pretty much like people in Lebanon, Syria, and so on, and other areas. Okay, so these are the descendants, and these are the people that lived in that land. Many years later, when Pharaoh came along, and then he kicked out, or he was persecuting the Bani Israel descendants, the children of Israel, and he was enslaving them, and then God sent them Moses. Now we believe, just like I was saying before, that Islam started from the beginning of Adam, from the beginning of creation. I'm watching the time because I have to go for Jummah prayers, so I'm just going to be very brief on this. And then they were then kicked out, and they were in the wilderness, and eventually they settled in that area that's called Palestine at the time. Okay, now Palestine was always Palestine. It wasn't any other name. It wasn't called Israel or any. That name is new. That's a name that they used to identify. They hijacked that name, and it was hijacked many years later when they started this whole Zionist movement to say, we are going to create a state exclusively for an ethnic group, and we are a superior race. Now, God does not say anywhere in the Torah, in the Sabur, the Psalms, in the Gospel of Jesus, nor in the Quran does it ever say that God has created a superior race and an inferior race, because God is not racist. Okay? So now you don't believe in God, that's fine. But I'm telling you from the scripture, which they use as their evidence, that they are entitled to this land, like they have got the title deed to this land, and this is their land. God tells us that we created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations of tribes so you can recognize each other. The best of you is the best in conduct. The best who is most beneficial. Someone who's benefiting. He's a beneficial individual. He's helping others, serving others. Service to many leads to greatness. That is how you raise up in status. That's how you become superior from other people. But you don't become superior based on your genetics or your lineage or your skin color. That is racism. Nothing to do at all with any of the divine scriptures that were sent from God. Nowhere does it say this nonsense that they're claiming. Okay, that is why many of our Jewish brothers, they disagree with this, and they say this is absolutely goes against the ruling of God, and we cannot accept this, and we cannot recognize this. These people are hijackers. These people are terrorists. These people are evil beings. Okay, so this is who they are. They're fascists. They were inspired by the Nazis. The founder, the visionary, was inspired through the Nazis, because the Nazis has the same idea, the fascist idea of creating a superior race. And he said, well, if they're going to do it with the Aryan race, we're going to do it with our own race. And the irony of all this, no one is even 100% purely from Bani Israel, or if you want to use the word Jew, because that word also came much later on. It was never used before. It was used by the Romans to describe the people of children of Israel, Bani Israel, and this was used. So, but we can say that 100% Jewish genetics. Okay, I am Egyptian. I am 60% Middle Eastern, 40% European, and I also have Jewish ancestry. I have ethnically from Bani Israel. So does many people have. It's not about you are pure this or pure that. No one is pure anything, because we, like I said, we all originated from Adam. So we can trace our lineage all the way back to the same father, same mother. We're all brothers and sisters. There's absolutely no reason that we should be fighting each other, killing each other, because we're all one family. We can agree to disagree in a respectful way. You don't always agree with everything. You might argue a little bit with your mum and dad and your brothers and sisters, whatever. But you don't end up to the point where you're gonna, kill them or do something like that. This is absolute nonsense. You can agree to disagree. It's absolutely fine. You can always see the problem from different angles and have different solutions. But you all have the best interest in heart when you're trying to solve something. You look at a challenge and you're trying to solve it. So this is the important thing. So I'm going to jump a little bit more. So he said something about kuffar means disbelievers, and God doesn't like the infidels, and the word infidel is used a lot. Actually, kuffar means someone that hides the truth. So let's just say that you know 100%, let's say you witnessed a crime, for example, and you know 100% of the perpetrator of that crime. But when you get questioned, because that person happens to be your friend, happens to be your brother, relative, whatever, so you hide the truth. You know the truth, you know who perpetrated the crime, but you falsifies the evidence, and you try to hide the truth. You are a kafir because you are someone that's hiding the truth. But if you didn't know the truth, you're not a kafir. You're not a kafir. The word kafir does not mean a disbeliever. It's used and it's translated as disbeliever, but actually it comes from turning the soil. You know, when you dig the earth and you roll over the soil, you roll over the soil. So you hide the soil at the top and you put it down, you get the soil from the bottom. So this is basically turning the soil. So the word kafir comes from the whole idea of covering up, covering the new soil, or the soil at the top, the soil at the bottom. So you are now covering up the truth. So if you're someone that's covering up the truth, you know the truth and you cover it up to misguide the law, misguide others, then that is what's called as a kafir. That is the situation. It does not mean that you are a disbeliever. Disbeliever is something else because you haven't found the truth. Maybe Islam wasn't explained to you correctly. Maybe you didn't see good examples. And unfortunately, and it's sad to say this, and I do apologize. We as Muslims today in this generation, we are bad examples. We are the worst examples. Many of us do not follow Islam. And this really upsets me because many of the Muslims today do not follow Islam. And the best of us are probably following about 3-4%, maybe 5% of Islam. And the rest of it is not being implemented. The rest of it is not being implemented. And most of it is not. And that's why you don't see the beauty of Islam. Very, very rarely you might come across someone that's really trying to make his best effort and try to be a real Muslim and stuff like that. And it tells us clearly in the Quran, enter into Islam completely, holistically. Don't take parts. Don't say, oh, I like this bit and I don't like this bit and I don't like this bit. Don't pick and choose. You have to take Islam holistically. That means you have to implement Islam completely and not pick and choose. And unfortunately today, in this day and age, many people are just picking and choosing what they like and what they choose what they like and they leave the rest. So most of us are not even implementing Islam correctly. So we are bad examples in that case. I'm not perfect myself. I'm trying to improve. And that's the thing that Allah asks from us, is that we all make an effort. We all have our challenges in our life. We have our vices. We have our faults. No one's perfect. So we all struggle to become better human beings. Okay. And also I maybe it's the same person as well. Only Muslims will go to heaven. It's unfair on the disbelievers. Why is it unfair? Why? And in what way is this unfair? You know, if Muslims go to paradise, and by the way, not all the Muslims will go to paradise. There was a woman who was praying, fasting. She was a Muslim at the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings upon him, and he said that she will go to hell. And when they asked him why is she going to hell, he told them, although she was praying and doing all these things, but she mistreated a cat. If you mistreat another creation of God, whether it's an animal, a human being, doesn't matter. Even a tree, you chop trees for absolutely no reason, cause destruction, then it nullifies all the worship of God. See, the relationship between you and the Creator is one thing. This is the foundation. Obviously, you have to believe in a Creator, but also it's greater sin and it's a greater deed how you interact with the world. So if you have bad character and you treat others badly, then it completely nullifies the reward of your worship. It's like you're just making movements and that's it. You just pray, moving your arms. It doesn't matter which direction you pray. It doesn't that just goes out the window now. You're not going to get anything for it. Of course, God can forgive people. He knows what's in people's heart. However, if you don't remedy this issue that you have with your bad character, your mistreatment of people, you break trust, you lie, you cheat, you harm others, murder, all that stuff. If you don't deal with these issues, then there's no value in your worship. There's no value in praying. You just make a movement. I'm not saying stop praying. No, keep praying and still try to tackle your issues, whether it's anger issues or violence, whatever. You should stop that and repent and ask forgiveness from the person that you've harmed. That's the only way. If that person doesn't forgive you, you're in serious trouble, because God's not going to forgive you unless that individual that you've harmed forgives you first. This is the rule. Okay, so you should always be careful if there's any action that we do that could affect someone else. That is something that's more serious than anything else. You know, if you don't pray, for example, and then you repent, you can ask repent to God, and God will forgive you, inshallah, God willing. But if you harm someone and that individual does not forgive you, you're in serious trouble, because you know, you can't just go to God and say, look, I forgive me for harming this person, or injuring this person, or cheating, or lying, or robbing someone. No, he's going to say, no, you have to sort out that issue first. You have to return what you've taken from him, which doesn't belong to you, and ask for his forgiveness. He has to give you the forgiveness first. He has to say, I forgive you, as if it's never happened. And then you come to God and say, please, God, forgive me. I made a mistake. I don't know what was wrong, but I did miss a mistake. Now, please forgive me. And then God will forgive you. So you have to understand these points, okay? But it's very fair that only Muslims will go to heaven, because you recognize your creator. You didn't recognize your creator, fine. God is not going to cut you off in this world. He's very fair, but he loves all his creation. He'll still provide you with provisions, nourishment, water, health. He'll give you everything. He will make you very happy. If you do good, you get your reward in this life. You'll not lose the reward. If you're a good person and you're a disbeliever, God will reward you in this life, but you have no share in the afterlife. You have to be very clear of this. If you want a share in the afterlife, that means you believe, otherwise it wouldn't affect you. Why would you be upset that Muslims will go to heaven, for example, or good people that are Muslims will go to heaven and others won't? Because you already didn't believe in God. So why does that worry you? If you think that after you die, that's it, it's the end, or you're going to be reincarnated, then it shouldn't be concerning. It shouldn't really upset you. The only reason it's upsetting you because you have this doubt inside you that perhaps, maybe Islam is the truth. Perhaps they are right. And if they're right, and they end up going to heaven, and I end up going to hell, how am I? That's not fair. I don't want that. Maybe you should really look into Islam properly, brother. Maybe you should really consider it. Because inside, I believe, inside there is an atom in your heart that believes there is a creator. So perhaps you should look into this and investigate. So at least you have an excuse. Make an informed decision. Don't make an informed decision. Make an informed decision whether this is true or false. People will respect you more. If you do your research first and then come back with a conclusion, people would respect you. You will respect yourself. But if you just make a decision, something isn't for you, without actually looking into it, without actually researching it, and make that decision, and then many years from now, 50 years from now, you say, oh, I wish I'd done this. I wish I read this. I wish I'd done that. You have no one else to blame but yourself. Because you had every opportunity to study, you had every opportunity to start a business, you had every opportunity to read and find out the truth and the purpose of life and so on. You had every opportunity. You lost it because you didn't make an informed decision. You didn't research. So you only have to blame yourself for the conclusion that you might face in the afterlife. That's all that I have to say to you. Now, I'm going to quickly, I've got about 5 minutes and then I'm going to go to the mosque. Inshallah, I've got a mosque just close to my house here. So yeah, very quickly, I'm going to make a comment about this article that I just seen. I'm just going to move the image here. So this is an article that just came out in the Telegraph about 14 hours ago. A London Imam denounced for rebound rhetoric over Hamas attacks. Yeah, I can't see it because it's on the other screen, so I'm seeing it in small writing. So basically, so there's the Imams, a lot of Imams are being attacked anytime they speak for Palestine, and I've seen this in the Isle of Man. I was allowed to make a recording in the mosque. I was just making a vlog. In fact, the mosque committee member told me, look, just stay here, because I was traveling that day. He said, just stay for a while, do some vlog, do whatever you want, use this desk. So I started doing that, and I was talking about the conflict that's happening in Gaza and Palestine. And then a few hours later, I get a call from the committee member. I think it's the main guy, the president or someone, some Pakistani brother. and he told me to take down my video, and basically I'm not welcome anymore. I'm giving them a bad name. What did I say in my video? I just basically said that we are all originated from Adam, we're all brothers and sisters, and no one should exceed the bounds and invade some other country and whatever. And this brother, this Pakistani guy who's head of the mosque committee, said that he wants to stay neutral, and he does not want to make a comment about this. And he also spoke to the Imam as well, because the Imam mentioned something, so he also attacked the Imam, and he removed him from his position. He did not say kill Jews or do this, all this nonsense. None of it. No one says this at all, because we consider all human beings are our brothers and sisters. How is that in any way anti-Semitic? How is it in any way anti-Semitic when you also belong to a Semitic group? Arabs, Jews, ethnically from Bani Israel are Semitic groups. The descendants of Ishaq and Ismail are Semitic. These are Semitic races. How could they be anti-Semitic? It does not make sense. It's like you call a rabbi what? In what way? You're criticizing racism. If you criticize racism, does not mean you are anti-Semitic. You have to get that straight. When you criticize a cult which thrives on killing others, massacring innocent civilians, and you say this is not right, this is a war crime, this is a crime against humanity, that is not an anti-Semitic statement. You have to understand this. People are so stupid sometimes. I really get disappointed with the lack of intelligence of some people. So anyway, so this guy, I said, fine. I didn't know I wasn't allowed, because I was told by another mosque committee member to sit there and I actually wanted to do my recording outside. And I was allowed to speak in mosques before, and no one ever said to me I'm allowed to say this, or I'm not allowed to say this, or I'm not allowed to speak, or I'm not allowed to sit in a mosque, because the mosque is supposed to be a house of God. So it's a house for everyone. Everybody's welcome. Muslims and non-Muslims are welcome. It's supposed to be like a community center. It shouldn't be someone, you can only speak about this. And then I get, the Imam also gets told to only speak about certain topics. For example, we're not in Ramadan, and they want him to give a talk about the birthday of the Prophet. It's not even the birthday of the Prophet. And they want to talk about things like, respecting your parents, which is fine. But today, what's happening, there's a conflict going on. We should talk about the conflict. We should speak about it. We should be allowed to speak. So there is silencing. There is, silencing of the freedom of speech right now inside some mosques, not all the mosques, including this mosque here. Now, they say over Hamas attack. It's nothing. He never actually said Hamas, or he's not even siding with Hamas or anything like that. He's talking about human life. He always saying human life matters. But the way the media does it is they twist the words. So this is in London, and they're now removing him from his position as an imam because of this action, because the mosque committee members are a bunch of cowards. That's what they are. They're going to have to answer to the Creator, to Allah, because they're scared of who? The enemies of Allah. They're scared of the enemies of Allah. And Allah tells us clearly in the Quran, I've added that verse in the description below, that do not fear them, but fear me. This warning is only from the followers of Satan. This warning that you should be afraid of us. This warning that this mosque committee got from the Greenwich Council or whatever. This warning that the enemies of Allah got from the people in the Isle of Man or whatever, or they have this fear, false evidence appearing real, that they're being warned by someone, or they could potentially lose the right to practice Islam in the Isle of Man if they speak or make a comment about in the favor of Palestine, for example. If they side with Palestinians, then they will be in trouble, and they have to speak on behalf of, and they become pro-Israeli, for example. Then they're scared. This warning only comes from the followers of Satan. So people that follow in it, they have weak faith. Unfortunately, we are ruled by people that have the weakest of faith, the worst of the worst people. They are worse than disbelievers even, because they are the hypocrites. This is the description of the hypocrites. So the mosque committee that rebukes an imam a man of God, man that's religious, educated, spent many years, 10, 20 years of his life dedicated to, the religion and teaching of the religion. And these people that are ignorant, buffoons, that have been placed in positions of authority with the weakest of faith, they are the hypocrites. They're the worst of the worst because they're trying to silence everybody. They're not giving people their freedom to speak and to communicate. They're not even going in a form of dialogue and trying to understand exactly what the point of what the Imam was saying, whether it's be in the Isle of Man or in Greenwich Mosque, for example. It's an unfortunate case, but the governments are not any different. They're doing the same thing. They're trying to silence any opposing views. We've seen it with this injection things. It's the same thing. They have their own agenda. They're pushing their own agenda, and this is the only verifiable information regarding anything. So you have to follow that. So they're doing it against everybody. It's nothing to do with religion anymore now. Now they're just taking away your freedom. So we should always stick together. We should unite. Now the solution is we can find a peaceful resolution to everything, but we should unite. People should respect everybody. It doesn't matter about your creed, your race, your skin color, anything like that. We're all brothers and sisters. We should respect each other, and I believe that we can find a solution, but we all have to stand up together, calling for peace, calling for unity, integration, not segregating. I'm against Muslims segregating, even Muslims segregating from in the country that they live in. So they live in the UK, they completely segregate themselves from the people in the country and so on. I think we should integrate, we should cooperate, we should look for what's common between us and build on that. We can build on that. And people's religion, what they believe in, what their culture is, whatever, it's a personal thing. You can't go into people's hearts and say, no, don't believe in God. Believe in God. No, don't believe in. You can't do that. It's something inside the heart. I've done my research. I've chosen Islam as my way of life. You've done your research, or you haven't done your research, and you've chosen to be whatever. It's entirely up to you. Practice what you want in your own life, and God's already given you that freedom. He gave you that freedom of choice. That's what makes us unique from even the angels. So we can become better than the angels, because the angels do not have the freedom of choice. They just obey. But we humans were given the freedom of choice. And through our free will, we accept God. Just the same way as Jesus, peace and blessings be on him, in the Garden of Gethsemane. He bowed down, put his head on the ground and said, I bow down in peace and total submission to you. In Arabic, you translate that word, he says, I bow down in Islam. As a Muslim, that's what he's saying. I, by my own will, can do nothing. That is the statement of Jesus, and it's still there in the Bible today. In every single Bible, you'll see that statement. Okay, anyway, I have to go now. I've got about 5 minutes to go to the mosque, so I'm going to just head to the mosque now, inshallah. So, Jummah Mubarakah, happy Friday, and greeting, or finally I'll say peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Take care for now. Bye-bye. I'll look forward to seeing you again. Bye-bye.